Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Derek. I'm a professional stained glass artist, and today I'm going to help you through the minefield of choosing the right kind of soldering iron. If you're new to stained glass and you're kind of buying your kit and equipment, buying the right kind of soldering iron can be challenging. So today we're going to walk you through three different types of soldering iron. The first is the Weller 100 watt electric soldering iron, which has been a very popular soldering iron for many years, but there's a new contender on the block. It's the Japanese Hakko FX-601. It's a lower wattage, but it still performs extremely well. And the third soldering iron is more industrial. It's certainly used by a lot of professional stained glass studios, and it's a gas soldering iron. So you may be interested in looking at that option as well. What's the benefit of a gas one? Well, it tends to be quicker. The Hakko one is a smaller soldering iron, and it's really good for delicate work, especially things like copper foil work, etc. And the Weller is the all-rounder of the family. It can do just about everything. So let's take a deep dive, starting right now. Modern soldering irons come in a variety of flavors and prices. If you look on Amazon, you can find basic electric irons for simple soldering tasks from as little as $12. But I'd strongly suggest you stay away from those and look at irons made specifically for stained glass makers. These fall into three separate categories. Firstly, a fixed wattage, fixed temperature electric iron. Secondly, a variable wattage, variable temperature electric soldering iron. And thirdly, a variable temperature gas powered soldering iron. So which one is best for you? Let's have a look at the Weller to start with. A popular fixed temperature electric soldering iron, this German made Weller W101D is rated as a 100 watt iron, which means it has an operating temperature of 370 degrees centigrade and comes with a detachable 7mm chisel tip as standard. Other tips are available, although the 7mm is a very useful size for most glass related projects. The Weller 100 watt stained glass soldering iron has a built-in thermostat which helps to regulate the tip at a safe workable temperature so it doesn't melt the lead or copper foil you're working on, and is a popular iron for professional artists and hobbyists alike. It is lightweight and performs well in most stained glass applications using lead or copper foil. It's well balanced in the hand and lightweight, which is important for not creating fatigue in the wrist or arm over longer periods of working. The iron plugs straight into the mains and the lead is around 5 feet in length, which works reasonably well for most workbench applications, although you will probably need to use an extension lead to get access to your nearest wall socket. The benefits of this type of iron are mainly due to its ease of use, being light and quick to reach a working temperature. The tips are interchangeable, so it's quite straightforward to unscrew and change it to a larger or smaller tip if required. It's helpful to remember to unscrew your tip and reattach it from time to time, as this will help to prevent it from seizing up due to heat corrosion. This can happen with older irons which have been used a lot, and it can be difficult or impossible to remove or change a tip once corrosion has set in. Cleaning the tip is very easy, and I would suggest that you invest in this type of cleaning set, which includes a metal sponge and tip tinner. Although you could also use a wet sponge to clean off excess solder as needed, this can sometimes reduce the temperature of your soldering iron, and you'll have to wait a little for it to heat up again. Remember to check out the links to these types of items in the description below. Looking after your soldering iron will help to prolong its life, and keeping the soldering tip clean, bright and shining is the best way to prolong the life of your iron, as it doesn't have to work extra hard to keep the right temperature. There are a few downsides to using this type of iron. The main one is the lack of control in changing the temperature of the iron, especially if you want to reduce the heat to prevent accidental burning or melting of the lead or copper foil you're working on. I've also found the handle of this iron can become too hot after a while, so much so that I've had to switch it off to let it cool down before continuing to use it. Also, having an electric cable running to the iron always presents the possibility of accidental damage to the wire due to poor cable management. and I'm always a little nervous about teaching new students how to use this type of iron, as it's really easy to touch the cable with the hot tip by accident when working with the iron for the first few times. So just make sure you know where the cable will be resting as you stretch and move around your work area. It's very easy to be concentrating on the glass piece and not paying enough attention to where the cable is. The second type of iron we're looking at today is the Japanese Hakko FX-601. The big difference with this iron is you can vary the temperature with a handy little button on the iron handle. This iron is electrically powered with a shorter 4-foot cable compared to the 5-foot Weller cable, but has a lower power consumption of only 47 watts and a setting temperature range between 240 and 540 degrees centigrade. It comes with a standard tip of 6.5mm and a length of 210mm and a weight of 6 to 8 grams. There are a variety of different tip sizes available for this iron, with examples shown here on their website, together with a very helpful list of troubleshooting guides which answer some of the frequently asked questions about this iron. I do like the attention to detail and additional product information offered to the customer by Hakko, which is in contrast to the poorer product information available on the Weller site.
Maintaining the soldering tip on both types of electric soldering irons is very straightforward with the kit that is specified in the description below. The brass wool and the tipping tin really help to maintain those tips and keep them in tip-top condition.
The third type of iron we're going to test today is a gas-powered soldering iron, popular with a lot of larger studios in the UK and Europe. This particular iron is one I've been using in my studio for many years now, and although it's looking a little rusty, it continues to work really well.
So the way we maintain a gas soldering iron is slightly different to an electric soldering iron in terms of the tip. The heating element on a gas soldering iron is a copper rod, and a flame plays across the copper rod, and periodically it becomes pitted if you're soldering with it for a period of time, and you have to file it back down to get a nice flat edge like this to the copper bit. It's then tinned, and the way I tin it is to use an old paint lid tin, put a little bit of flux in there, a little bit of solder, and you can re-tin the copper end just like this to get a nice usable tip end, and that will work very, very well for many hours to come before you have to re-tin it.
I use a low pressure gas cylinder to power the iron, which makes it very portable and it can be taken on site if needed. However, it's really important to make sure you have good fire safety protocols in place and have permission to use naked flame tools if you're taking the iron on site. Some studios use gas irons fitted to a natural mains gas supply rather than bottled gas. Either way, the iron works really well. Now, the downside of using a naked flame iron is obvious. You have to be ever vigilant about fire safety and always make sure an iron is switched off at the supply when not in use.
So what conclusions can we draw from the three types of soldering irons we're looking at today? Well, the Weller is a great all-rounder. It's lightweight, it's easy to keep clean whether you're using a wet sponge or whether you're using the brass wool. The tip lasts a good length of time and it is relatively easy to work with. I do find that the handle does get hot after a period of time, and that is a problem if you're doing lots of work over the course of the day. And I'm a little bit worried about the longevity of an iron that gets that hot. It doesn't seem to be particularly well insulated. The little Hakko I found to be rather small. It's extremely lightweight, and I think for delicate work like jewellery work, etc., it's extremely good. But for larger scale projects, especially a project the size of the size that we're looking at here, a large church stained glass window, the little Hakko iron really is a little too small. Also, it was not maintaining its heat levels, even although I was altering the temperature gauge. I found, especially these long seams, this joint here, for example, I really had to take 2 or 3 goes to get this little Hakko to melt the solder across a long joint like that. In comparison with the gas soldering iron, it really races through solder joints. As you can see here, it is not a problem to do long seams quickly. It's not a problem to do do long joints really quickly with the gas iron. So the gas iron really is my go-to iron if I want to do larger scale projects and do it quickly. The temperature change is a little bit mechanical with the gas soldering iron, and you know it's simply altering the amount of air that gets in, but the solder joints are flat and they are generally extremely neat, and my personal preference is the gas soldering iron. However, if you're a hobbyist and you're working with jewellery, or if you're working with terrariums, or if you're working with copper foil, I think a smaller soldering iron like the Japanese Hakko one is absolutely ideal.
And if you've enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for lots more content all about stained glass. Consider becoming a channel member for additional content made just for my channel members. All of the information about the soldering irons in today's video will be in the description set out below this video, so you can check out the details of each soldering iron. Leave comments and suggestions for future videos, and I'd love to hear which soldering iron you prefer. Let me know again in the comments below. Check out this video next as you continue your stained glass journey. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.